evening, everyone. Welcome to Corruption Files and Investigator News. And good evening to Miss Karen and William and Linda that's in our chat. And we invite you in our chat and we will answer questions or your comments and put you up on the board. And yeah, Corruption File, rabbits. Yeah, rabbits. The power over the people. If you have money, do you have the power over the people? And they seem to think they do. And they think they can run our country whether they live here or not. The money and the power and the influence aren't exactly very easy to come by. And it takes time and effort and a healthy amount of under the table dealings to achieve these lucky things. Or if you're lucky enough to be born into the family, as we've seen this last week with the Queen and the family. And we'll learn about a little bit of how the grandchildren are millionaires at this point. And so if you're born into a family that already has over the centuries, these particular families have managed to accumulate insane amounts of money, power, influence, and using it to place themselves in very convenient, important parts of society. These families are so powerful, they basically won the economic game and pretty much done a tiny bit of shaping society to their whims that we are seeing now. And these are some of the family of the most powerful in the world, the Rothschild family. If you know anything about conspiracy theories, then you're certainly heard about the Rothschilds. From the wildest to the most plausible, one way or another, the Rothschilds had something to do with it. I mean, if they, the first, if they had anything to do with it, the first page of Google is to be believed that the Rothschilds have done everything from controlling every central bank in the world to even controlling the weather with an insane combined net of $400 billion. It could even be close to trillions. And who are the Rothschilds? Really? They alien emissaries or just some incredibly rich people? Well, um, what they are is an international banking and finance dynasty of German descent. And they rose to international prominence in the early 18th century and subsequently established operations to all over Europe. And they were elevated to nobility by the Austrian government. So they are just incredibly wealthy. But you probably guessed that the Rothschilds' historical rise to power started with Meyer Rothschild, who is a keen talent for financing and eventually led him to become a prominent member of the global banking industry. So they control the banking industry and installed his five sons into the financial capitals of Europe and throughout the world. They successfully adapted industrial revolution, a rise in economic growth through Europe, and landing themselves in a position in the world trade of oil and metals. And the Rothschilds were so powerful they could loan money to the entire country. Uh, so it wasn't your everyday wealthy lord. No, they were loaning billions to the entire governments. Um, they supplied enough coin to the Bank of England to avert market liquidity crisis. And they also granted loans to France after its defeat by uh, Russia and granted a $4 million loan to the British government just after being asked a few hours prior when they were simply just rolling in money. And these days, the family has taken a more low key approach, but they are slowly and being very sneaky and being the financial superpower and wanting to be the one world banking system. Their wealth was donated by vast quantities of art, charity, and they have many castles all over the world that sit abandoned with furniture and belongings and paintings. And they just seem to walk away and build another castle and generally avoiding suspicious displays of wealth, and how they go about it, they have now become very silent and becoming of the underworld or even dark money, especially after the Surrealist Party back in the 70s. Now that'll haunt them. Uh, if you ever remember the Rothschilds back in the 70s, you'll remember they had weird parties, lots of drugs, lots of sex, lots of animal petting. They were the ones that, if you watched the movie Legend and you seen the dancers at the ball, that's what kind of their parties were all about. But not only that, they were the start of dressing up like animals and petting. So forever the Rothschild families are without a doubt, extremely powerful and influential and cloaked in mystery. All the conspiracy theories, whether or not they're true, they're responsible for, most say, the assassination of JFK. Or were they? Or did they just fund it? Or are they fighting against? Um, does it seem like they're fighting against climate change, or are they the money behind it? For the conspiracy theorists to decide, um, let's take a look at the Windsor family. Quite possibly one of the most popular and most influential groups of royals. And so going from the Rothschild to the Windsors, uh, there is, in a way, a duel of who has the most. And the Windsor family is quite possibly one of the most popular and most, um, they seem to draw more attention to themselves. They tend to have the entire world backing them because they're a group of royals, and the entire world with the family branches that have stretched across Europe and influenced, quite literally stretches the entire globe. It doesn't it doesn't make you, if that doesn't make you want to find your own Windsor heir to marry, well, wait till you find out just how wealthy the latest generation of British royalty is. Prince William and Kate Middleton and three kids, George, Charlotte, and Louis, aren't just living the life of unparalleled luxury. They are making, too. Um, uh, so Prince George is already worth $2.8 billion, and his sister Charlotte is worth $4.3 billion. And they're already making 10 digits, and neither of them is 10 years old. Simply mind blowing. The Windsors aren't just sitting at the top of the country with the GDP up high and trillions of dollars of their influence spread beyond Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, England, reaching the very continent of Earth. Yes, including Antarctica. And some countries even include the South Pacific Islands. One of them is Tanna. And the Duke of Edinburgh was considered literally a god. And sometimes they even say the Queen of England was a goddess. And they treat this family like that as we watch this funeral for a week long, and how they show the royalty it is royalist. And considering literally a god in Canada also, where the portrait of Queen Elizabeth is featured, um, on their $20 bill. It might sound a little strange to you, but did you know that Queen Elizabeth technically owns 1/6 of Earth's land? And of course, now that she has passed, it goes on to Charles III. So, what does Charles III get? 1/6, maybe even more, of Earth's land. And of course, he's going to think he's in control, not the Rothschilds, not Klaus Schwab. But we've heard that they have been getting together and making one world decisions. Now, the technically the largest landlord in the entire world, owning more than 6 billion acres of land, is technically the head of state of 16 countries now. These countries are a part of what's known as Commonwealth realm. And some of the wealthiest places in the world, like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, which technically would make the Windsor family worth estimated of $35 trillion. Now, that's a lot of power. You might think that they're running a constitutional um, monarchy these days, but that doesn't diminish how influential they are. I mean, people uh, have actual tattoos of the royal family. Now, I'm talking about permanent tattoos, drawings of Queen Elizabeth on their bodies. You can only wish that you were that popular. Um, Now, back it up with ridiculous amounts of wealth. The Windsors sure can own several castles, mansions, and estates, all of which are incredibly expensive, with 25 of them that sit empty. And they didn't even need to buy most of them. So, also, the royal collection is art, owned by the British royal family, which is one of the largest art collections in the world. 7,000 paintings, 40,000 watercolors and drawings, and about 150,000 old master prints. They've got historical photos, tapestries, crown jewels worth $4 billion. Pretty much everything you consider art can be, and it's found in this collections. Some of Windsor's luxurious royal holdings include Kensington Palace, which is estimated of $630 million. Buckingham Palace is worth $4.9 billion, and one of the most expensive popular buildings in the world, just casually live in it, uh, is how they go about it. And like I said, there's 25 castles that are sitting empty. And not only that, the crowns and the jewels that they have total close to another $500 million. So, is it just them? Is there another family? Well, take a look at the Koch family. I'm not just going to pick on uh, royalty. I'm going to go after the Koch family. And what do you get when you mix oil, money, time, and healthy bit of generational wealth? Well, you get the Koch family, a dynasty of oil billionaires that have shaped both economic and political the landscape of the United States. They're not in England. They're not in France. They're not even over in um, Asia. They are part of the United States wealth, the current worth of over $200 billion. The Koch family started their rise in power with a company that had a mouthful for a name. It was originally called Wood River Oil and Refining Company until it was thankfully renamed to Koch Industries in honor of Fred Koch. One of his, or some people say it's Koch, but it is I've heard it is Koch. And the earliest members, when it was run by his two sons, David and Charles, affectionately referred to as the Koch brothers, after millions upon millions of Coca-Cola jokes were made, until David passed away in 2018 at the age of 79. Now, to give you an idea of what the Koch family is about, Koch Industry is currently the second largest privately owned company in the United States, currently the sixth largest in the entire world. And early um, in the early world ranking, their yearly revenue of $125 billion. But the Coke industry isn't just rich, it's prolific as well. And they've acquired so many companies across the United States and around the globe that they have effectively do everything now. And I'm not even exaggerating these numbers. The acquisitions were incredibly smart. And well, some of them include the $22.5 billion purchase of Georgia Pacific, one of the world's largest manufacturers and distributors of paper. They provide a wide variety of household products under the name like Brawny, Angelsoft, Vanity Fair. They also spent another $7.5 billion to purchase Molex and electric components and a manufacturer. And they work with the National Guard of the United States and could give and donate considerably to the National Guard. Um, so, and also the United States, that paper, electricity, uh, and whatever else that they can buy into. Um, and the Koch family is ready not um, only the wealthiest, but they also invest non-significant amount of their wealth to make sure the political landscape in the country is exactly the way they want it, or it turns out. You don't have to be royalty to hold a political office. So that matter to get to a few politicians that speak your language. And if there's one thing the Koch family is really passionate is about the real estate. And they purchased a multi-billion dollar 63-story, 4,000 unit hotel and casino in Las Vegas Strip. And that was just the start. They plan to buy more hotels and hospitality assets at this point. They're just trying to fill a bingo card, I believe, of industries. And they can take over. I think they can. But there's someone much bigger in the United States than the Koch family. And you would be very surprised. And I watched them grow from a single store that sat next to the Piggly Wiggly that grew into a massive empire. And who are we talking about? The Walton family. So powerful, they have an insane net worth of $169 billion. Dollars. They say it could possibly go up to $500 billion because of everything that has not been tallied for this year. And they own a corporation so massive that the net worth is larger than some countries' GDP. Yet nobody really talks about them. We all shop at the Walmart, and no one really has seen what they have been doing. They have approximately um, um, 10 million stores in 24 countries worldwide, which employ about 2.2 million people. Well, I certainly think there's a lot more um, because of the years. And I know that there is at least 3 to 5 Walmart stores per big city. And well, certainly Walmart was uh, started off as just a simple guy, they say. And Sam Walton he basically founded the Sam Walton Walmart in 1962. And over the years, it eventually grew into the world's largest company by revenue, earning over five, boy, $540 billion, and consequently turning the Waltons into the richest family in the United States, being the number one business, not only here in the United States, but globally. Let me tell you that Walmart is so powerful. Its very existence in a community is enough to destroy any competition that stands in Walmart way. And when I worked at Target, um, as a personnel manager. When I got into my computers to do ordering or do personnel work or anything on the computers, I had a choice. Was I working for Walmart or was I working for Target? And I would push Target. So a little, and I was never supposed to disclose this. I signed paperwork that as long as I work for the Target Corporation, I would not disclose this. Walmart owns Target. Their target was to put Kmart out, put Sears out, put J.C. Penney's out, and bring forth coal. So in a small town, about half of its retail trade is gone in a few years. It fell to the feet of the retail giant. And naturally, Walmart consumer size is frankly ridiculous. And it did put these companies down to almost nothing. And and thanks to its low prices and wide range of products, appeals virtually to everybody. It serves approximately 220 million customers a week. The Waltons have more than one successful venture. Though you don't get over $100 billion of being a one-trick pony. After all, these are ventures that was known as Sam's Club, a chain of warehouse clubs that sold groceries, generally merchandises. It operated 600 warehouse and raked in profits up to $57 billion. And their charitable foundation, or hint, the Walton Family Foundation, has managed to take on environmental issues. And being the rich, they already knew that the Koch family was doing business with the hotel industry and maybe the housing market. We had the Rothschilds with the banking. So, what was Walmart to do? Well, they decided to take on education, spending $1 billion. And later, the Waltons have used their vast wealth to dabble a bit in politics as well, just like the rest of the rich. The Waltons aren't exactly one note, though. Their different heirs to the Walmart throne have paid large sums of money on different sides of the political aisle, trying their darndest to influence policies like really boring season of the West Wing. The Morgan, so uh, Walmart is now basically into education. And this is all a part of the one world system. So you can see as they're all lining up to have different parts of what's going on in the world, from banking to education to maybe even real estate. There's one thing that's interfered with all three of the above, and it's a family called Trump. So, of course, we have to pull in another rich family because when you look at the trilateral group, you have to look at all of these families and see who's rich and who's the most powerful. And next would be the Morgan family. This family's rise to international prominence started in the late 19th century with perhaps the most famous Morgan of them all, John Pierpont Morgan. And this guy, all the documentaries, early industry, American born, and you guys would probably know him or know the family as J.P. Morgan. And it would follow in their father's footsteps to get embroiled in the financial sector, becoming one of the most famous bankers in the world, but part of the stock exchange. Eventually immortalized by one of the most powerful financial institutes, the United States, J.P. Morgan and Company, didn't build the first billion-dollar company by banking alone. This basically, they were part of the steel industry. And of course, that would help the military. And they developed an alliance with the president of Carnegie Steel and purchased company for $480 million, which at the time was more than the U.S. federal government entire budget. You got to spend money to make money, they said. And boy, they made a lot of money. And they established U.S. Steel Company worth $1.4 billion, placing the J.P. Morgan family not only at the top of the banking industry, but that not only the steel company to work with the military, but also the railroad industry. And they controlled 60% of the steel's industry too, for good measures, not to mention the fact that he sat on the board of directors for 48 different companies. This has obviously granted the Morgan family immense political and economical sway. It depends on what side of the chairs that they want to sit. And all around the world, J.P. Morgan was a part of several illustrious social clubs where they could meet and rub soldiers, so shoulders with the most powerful men in society. He even founded their own club called the Metropolitan Club, which powerful members are in it, including fellows like billionaire Cornelius Vanderbilt. Morgan and Vanderbilt seem to be a very close family and have very close family ties. And such wealth and influence by using an incredible savvy, uh, uh, very savvy, and of course, very cutthroat. He bullied out the competition straight up and bought out competitors. J.P. Morgan's death, and the oldest, was in 1913, but he left behind what would eventually come the largest bank in the United States, with assets worth of $3.7 trillion. And the lifespan of the J.P. Morgan Chase has come out, is officially the largest bank in the world, capital market and capitalism. And what else could possibly expect from a family so powerful and enough control of, guess what? The U.S. gold supply. And they organized a syndicate of bankers to stabilize the economy and the whole country. Which family do you think is the most powerful? You've seen the Morgans. Not only do they are they in charge of the loans, and um, come to find out, the J.P. Morgan family is friends with the Pelosi families, which got the Pelosi's into buying into credit cards, which now they want to corner the um, Visa, Mastercard, with Chase Bank and J.P. Morgan's to be able to control. Uh, not only the credit cards, but the loans that would go out of the banks. So there's your billionaires. Do they pay their taxes? No, they seem to have a lot of foundations that put money into that they're able to cover anything, the millions and trillions that they get every year. So what about big tech? We were looking at big tech, and we have seen Google become very wealthy within a very short time. And Silicon Valley in California, where these companies like Apple, Google have conquered the world, their success comes at a price. Yet, not to see, um, uh, if you look at the people and the workers from Los Altos, they are very, very wealthy. Now, when I was out in California, that Silicon Valley was just, it was like a tiptoe world that if you didn't have the millions and billions, then you pretty much didn't go towards a Silicon Valley. This very exclusive area to live. Um, uh, there is a rise of the tech company, and they have made it possible to pay rent. Um, Pay rent for when they say David was a tradesman. So he was living in a van next to Google's campus. And so a lot of what was going on around there was high rent. And they were finding out that people were willing to pay like 2,400 a month. Um, um, so this is where the start of the rise, I believe, in California happened. Um, California prices have always been very high, rent very high. Going to buy a house is very high, and for 100,000, you're going to live in a shack. And they said that it was these tech guys that started paying out that $2,400 a month. Well, then they realized they can get $500, 500,000 for the right place if it was just had a little bit more paint. And so um, they were basically building up uh, Silicon Valley to block out anybody that wasn't wealthy enough to live there. So that's why it became like a tiptoe thing. Um, and not only that, Silicon Valley, because they were raising the rent, so high around the San Francisco and Bay Area. As of 2021, you're looking at people, the average person that works, let's say makes a little more than minimum wage, they are homeless. They go to work, but they are homeless. They can't afford the rent in San Francisco and the Bay Area. So it has created 35,000 homeless people that are called the working homeless. This is different from Skid Row. Skid Row is the one with the drugs and people that have been homeless with mental problems. The working homeless that is now happening from the Bay Area to Sacramento to Stockton, all the way down the valley of even the farmers. The farmers that had to walk away from their crops are now homeless. They had to sell their homes, sell their farms, and now they are working homeless. And alongside the highest density of billionaires at the same time in the world, um, when the pandemic only exa- it basically um, exasperated everything that was going on. And now it created inequality, which precludes the possibility of the meaning of democracy. Now, I told you guys what democracy meant. It's we the people, for the people, by the people, make the decisions of the United States, which is no longer happening. And so the people in the community, their basic needs were almost inconceivable because they can't live. They could only work, and they're putting all their money into just being able to the normal bills. Anything after that, they do not have, and they're standing in lines. And so, what does this have to do with big tech? Well, um, the pretense of democracy is what they're saying that this is. It's something of a farce. And Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple have changed the global economy, and they have become too big in the process. And the politicians seem to limit the company's power, they say, and even had hearings with all of them sitting there, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. And in the fact that they were called to testify before Congress. And the tech industry and American success, a story of products that we build to change the world and improve people's lives. Google aims to build products that increase access to opportunity for everyone, they said, no matter where you live, what you believe, and how much money you are. The tech companies don't see their marketplace as being a power problem. And they don't just seem to think that they're the biggest problem that Silicon Valley leaders have. They believe this because their intentions are good and the outcomes will be good for the human and mankind. And it's really hard for them to imagine that despite of their good efforts that they have put forward to the American people, some things are gone completely down the drain. And what they have done is they've given us free social platforms to which we can talk and we can be closer to families and make sure that no one is going to come in and be an evil to the social network. So they have to put the bans in place. Uh, I'm sorry, I got a ban and I don't think it's very fair and it's definitely not making my family happy. And so, um, and what does all of their wheelings and dealings have done? Well, it has raised the rent cost. They have put a lot of money into making sure the cities have the very wealthy and push the middle class, upper, lower, lower class. No, okay, let me get this right. The lower rich class to the middle class to the poor to push them into the suburbs, and the millionaires and billionaires would control the cities. And where do we see this mirrored at? None other than China and North Korea. Now, in Davos in Switzerland, this is where the world's most powerful um, uh, people gather for the World Economic Forum. And now, a Dutch historian put his finger on the problem of now, if they are so into the World Economic Forum and um, they are so worried about our atmosphere, they're so worried about our air. Uh, you can put your finger on a problem when 1,500 private jets flown in there. And I mean, people talk the language of participating in justice, equality, and transparency, and no one raises the real issue of what they do. And I've seen this in my own chat that is it's one way for them and another way for us. Well, you hear it on the news, you hear it when you talk politics with people on the injustice, and they don't see that. They avoid taxes, right? And talking about taxes, yeah, taxes. All the rest of the world pay taxes, but they do not. And the fact is, more of the world belongs to the super rich people. For one reason, this tax avoidance, and from 2014 on, billionaire Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos paid an effective tax rate of 0.98. Now compare that to the top U.S. tax rate. Almost 40% of the economic historians um, are paying, have said that the world is paying for it. And compared to what Bezos was paying is just pennies. And that's a problem with America today. It's the inequality at the top. And if you hear Bernie Sanders and AOC or the others saying, and Elizabeth Warren, the millionaires and the zillionaires have got to pay for this. Well, they're part of that club too. But one of them, the biggest ones, is our big tech, and they have made so much money in the billions, and they still don't have to pay it. So are they talking about them? No, because they are part of the closed-in circle that meet not only at Davos, but then they do the G summits. And then, of course, when it's got to be private, then it's the Bilderberg group, the trilateral group. And sometimes just to let their hair out and dress like women, they run to Bohemian Grove, which does a ritual of satanic that makes them more powerful for the following year. And the distribution in American society is a very key element of the surge of wealth. And the income at the top is not just people on Wall Streets, it's the senior elites, they're technicians, these companies, a big stock option, very handsome compensation. And they get bonuses at the top. And these successful companies distort the drive of increasing popularity into American society. And and then they did in 2016 have a world uh, economic um, CDC meeting in Texas where they were warning the elites, the big techs, so those with power over social media and media itself, they all got together in 2016 and they had a what if exercise. What if a pandemic were to hit? What would it do to the country? And this was in 2016. And they all were given things that they could do, or what they were going to do, what they were going to say, and how to go through drills of what was going to. Well, I can't. This is hard because it's mentioning the V word, the jab thing, and um, all of this was said in 2016, and all of the elite attended this drill. And so Um, so American society with this, um, they say basically blew up the pandemic into a catastrophic um, a killer for the country. And they blamed it on society. They blamed it on the people that made it so bad that we could, if we would have listened to the world leaders, we could have only had a year of a disease that could have been eradicated. But they say that there is a party that stepped in, interfered, made um, 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 boy, what's another word for this? They made the cure for it. They thought, and then Trump came forward with this and said it would take care of all of it. Well, when you have this other part, the Democrat Party that stepped in and Biden became president, uh, they changed it from it was a um, that it would be a lot longer, and they made stipulations and laws and rules for the American people, but not for them, as they sat maskless. Um, now, what's this? So the trend between 20 and 22, while many Americans were losing their jobs, and that was the start of the fall, and that is called the first portion of the last part of the Great Reset. And so what they had to do is these elites have to pull all the money to themselves and take it out of everyone else's hand. That is everything that you would own, your house, you're going to lose your car. And this is something that was in a plan. Now, as far as I know, in 2020, um, at the G Summit, that a lot of this reset was put into place. And this was a reset that had been planned since the 50s. And they were just going through the motions and the steps. And if you've listened to some of my shows, I've explained a little bit how this has worked. So, um, what are we looking at with techs? What does the big tech have to do with this? Well, the between 20 and 22, while Americans and we lost things, and now we're looking at inflation. Um, Jeff Bezos' fortune grew just in 2 years for being a part of this and doing what they were told. His fortune grew by more than $80 billion. And we've been told about the creation of wealth, and it's created at the top by brilliant entrepreneurs and innovators, and that it'll trickle down to the rest of us. And sure, we can be taxed, but we should be taxing them also. But they say we should be grateful that they got rich, and we shouldn't attack them because you know what? They have done some great work, especially because of the pandemic, and that was actually the other way around, real wealth creators. And as the independent, um, the plumbers, the teachers, the nurses, the care workers, the shop workers, um, it crumbled all around us. Why? Because we would have become the next middle class to the upper class. And why? It's called capitalism. And then they don't want capitalism because it gives you, the common man, the chance to become very wealthy. What do you start with? You're working at a restaurant, or you're a plumber working for a company. And then you can venture out and you can open up your own business, because the capitalism and this free and the trade agreements that we had in over the last 10, 20 years is allowed growth. And not only that, they were started the lottery for the states, that part of it would go to the education. Well, they started finding out too many millionaires were happening, and it's still happening. And so, what better way than to crumble the middle class? So the only way they can get it is the roll of a dice of a lottery ticket. and they have stopped society and crippled it. And now we are paying the taxes, and everything they have slipped into their budgets over the last since 2008, uh, it crumbles tax for them, and they get tax avoidance. Um, and here we have to pay for it. And you guys know this, but I wanted to simply tell you that what capitalism was and what they did. And this was all part of the plan. This is, and guess what? It was all part of the plan when they had those meetings and those drills and those secret Bilderberg meetings in 2016. So now it's tax avoiding for them that has led tech companies to rural areas and from big cities. In remote Pineville, Oregon, Facebook has invested $2 billion in data center. And why data center? Well, 5G. And who owns 5G? China. Of course, they need data centers all over the place. And this is a very sleepy city prior to the tech companies coming in. This is a county seat. It also is the oldest seat in the county, but economically it was pretty stagnant. And before the data companies came in 2009, Facebook was lured there with the promise of tax breaks. And city lost the potential. Guess what? The city, it crumbled the middle class all of a sudden, and they didn't know why. And the city has lost potential $130 million in taxes, and the deal in this deal that was supposed to be a fair market. And how did it happen? No one can really explain it, except for the fact that these big tech companies are moving into the smaller counties or cities to crumble the small businesses. And how many small businesses have went out of business? And so what do they do? And you're saying, well, how did they do it? Well, it took me a while to take a look at it and see what the big tech was doing. And because this is a lot more than you just playing your Farmville game uh, on Facebook. It's far more than just listening to politicians uh, talking on Twitter. Uh, what they do is they move into a town and they put up their data center, and this is it. You know, they hire a bunch of people. What about like Amazon? Amazon brought in this big warehouse, and they're putting people to work. And what it does is it draws they pay them better for just a simple worker. What that does is it gets the normal worker that's looking for a little bit more money to be able to make it work for Amazon, and they leave the small business. And then, of course, we've raised the taxes over and over again with these small businesses and gave them policies and laws for them to abide by. And what it does is it has crumbled these small businesses. Um, and so now you guys can understand why the small businesses are crumbling, because big businesses are coming in for what? Because in the reset in the one world order, it will be big stores like Walmart. Maybe Kroger, maybe Safeway, maybe. But the small mom and pops, little grocery stores aren't going to make it. Those little gas stations, mom and pop gas stations, no, Shell's going to do it. Let's see, BP, and they're going to ones that have the little grocery section, and you could buy little trinkets there. And of course, they're putting more and more, and they put food in there. They put little seats in there for you to go in and sit down and maybe have a hot dog and maybe rest your feet as you're at the gas station, or as they put in these um, uh, the charges for the EV cars, and it takes a half hour. Well, you can grab a hot dog, a Coke, get you a coffee. But you know what? What happened to mom and pop gas station? It's gone. It's gone. And see, that's what they're doing. And of course, raise the minimum wage to 15, maybe $20 an hour. Yeah, let's do that. Can McDonald's and mom and pop afford this? Well, it's even putting out parts of McDonald's and these. Why? Because they are franchised, and what I mean by that. And if you don't know this, uh, you go and let's say you buy a McDonald's. Well, it's your McDonald's, but then you have the McDonald's Corporation that owns part of it also. What's that do? It makes McDonald's a little bit bigger, and it puts the local hot dog stand out of business. But what is up and coming and growing is what they call roach coaches. That's what I call them. And that is these little stands that they put up all over the place to get your hot dogs, and all of that. That's what they're pushing this to. So it's an individual roach coach. And how many employees do they have? Two, three? Where you're putting out a mom and pop's business that is employing 20 people. And so what is the cause of this? To make the one place that you can go, that's the big one, put out the little guy, and then it makes for a better America because we're not polluting it with these businesses. Um, and boy, so not only that, but they don't want trees cut down, and they're going after the timber industry. They don't want the coal plants going. They shut down the coal plants. And of course, we know about the pipeline. This was all set and planned in 2016, but we're also finding that it even goes all the way back to 2009, once Obama was put into office. Many of these wealthy, not only the tech companies, but the rich families I told you about, they all poured money into Obama to be able to start um, this plan into place because he was so charming. He charmed the American people while they took everything away. Um, and now we have these big techs, we have the big companies, we have these rich people, because everybody says, well, who's running the country? Well, it's a little bit of all the billionaires and trillionaires. It's big tech. Um, and of course, they're going to, from what I'm hearing now, is with Elon Musk buying Twitter, it interfered with the plan of get this, one social platform. And it was supposed to it was going to be Twitter and Facebook combined. And then, of course, from what I'm hearing, I feel sorry for YouTube, but they're being mean anyway to me. Um, that it would turn more into a TikTok to where every time you sign in, you would have to sign in. It would start gathering all your information. So the big tech companies, what they're doing, they're working with the 5G to be able to spy on all of us. So, even through the uh, your smart products that you have in your house. And I've told you guys about it. Even your coffee pot. If you got a smart coffee pot, it can hear exactly what you're saying. It can pinpoint where you're at in your house. So if they decide to shut the country down or the world down, and they are looking for you, you're standing near your coffee pot in your house, and they know where you're at. If you're watching TV, they watch you. Uh, your phone, your computers, everything has a way of tracing through 5G. And that's what 5G and TikTok is all about. Why do you think I keep saying don't don't do nothing on TikTok, folks? Nothing. Get away from TikTok. It is spying on you, and it's gathering all the information on you, all the way down to who you've given birth to, medical records, to your work records, to your banking records, to who your family members are, who your friends are. It takes everything, all your information, and it's storing it. And you say, well, where are they keeping this? Didn't I just got through saying about um, Twitter and Facebook coming up with these big data banks? Yeah, all over the place. Yeah, the data banks is us. You're in one of them. You're in a small portion of these data banks, and all your information from the time of birth until now. And believe me, they know where you're at. They know what you drive. They know where you live. They know where you work. They know where your kids go to school. Stay off of TikTok, folks, please. And, you know, if you have a camera, you see a camera at the top of your TV, put tape over it. They can still listen, but, you know, at least they're not filming you in your underwear, you know, that they can expose and show you for being an expositionist. Um, uh, now, Linda, and I'm getting close to, I want to get into the cobalt. It's not just TikTok. No, that's where your smart stuff comes in. But TikTok is absorbing your kids. You know, everybody likes that cute little puppy video, and you see, you're like, oh, that looks so good, and you, what harm? And you watch it. Well, you know, while you're watching it, they're taking, and then you're done with the video and you're like, oh, that was so cute, and it was on TikTok, and you just don't realize it. You know, I even get on to uh, when I'm getting into YouTube sometimes on my phone. There's a video that's kind of like the one I'm going to pull, but this one looks a lot better. Guess who's doing it? TikTok. Now, cobalt, folks, this is just heartbreaking, and I wish I could have. Um, I showed you the pictures, but YouTube won't allow it because um, it is cruel to children. And there is children working in the cobalt mines in Congo, as young as 3 years old. They are now starting to look to the United States and the world, saying who is going to pay for the damage. And the damage is that now women can no longer have a healthy baby. These babies are coming out with cleft palates. They're coming out deformed. They're coming out to where these kids aren't living past the age of 8 to 10 years old. They are so poisoned with the cobalt, and but yet, uh, in order for them to live in the Congo, and it's so poor that they have to for money. If that's the only work that's there, you've got to go work for the cobalt mine. And what are we doing? Oh, we're buying more phones. We're buying more electronics, the EV cars, the solar panels, everything that cobalt is supposed to go into. And they're pressuring these kids to keep mining it. And these kids are throwing up. They're sick. They're poisoned. And, you know, and they're pushing women to have more kids so they can fit down in the holes of the cobalt mines. Um, and not only is it heartbreaking to watch it, but they are just covered in mud. It's cobalt. And you could see it all over their hands. They don't wear no protection. Why? Because they're not given the protection. And they're not, you know, they're too poor to get the protection when they go down in these mines. And now, um, according to some of the parents, they said, well, now we're being told that we have to speed up production by not just double, not just triple, but 100-fold, because there is a long line of cars that need batteries. There's people that need their phones. There's people that want um, the newest phone that's out, the one that has all the good stuff in it. And not only that, but you know, you have to own one of these EV cars. So now, instead of working the 12-hour shifts, they're pushing them to 15-hour shifts. So imagine a 5-year-old girl or a boy working 15-hour shifts to get cobalt out of this mine so they can make pennies. And then, of course, when they take up the cobalt to the sellers, the tables are all set up and they're taking big bags of this stuff in there. And lo and behold, the ones that are buying it up is the Chinese. And now the Chinese are buying more and more of the land that has this cobalt, you know, because they're going after resources. Who owns the mines? The Chinese does, Linda. Uh, and now, if you guys, hopefully, if you got Facebook, I I believe I posted the video, and it's very, very sad, and it gets into the information of how bad it's going. and how sick these people are. Uh, you're talking some babies are born with no arms, no legs. They're deformed, and it's heartbreaking. And if you don't want to, you can't get to the Facebook thing. Get on there on YouTube and look up the cobalt mines and the kids, and you'll see the horror. And do we really have to have that car? Do we really have to have that phone? A new phone? Can't we do something with the technology we got today? Why can't we get a phone that we're not having to get the new one every year or 2 years, 3 years to have the newfangled uh, toys on it, and not push this EV thing that's not working. Um, these EV cars are they're having too many issues, and I agree that we should have a cleaner world, but they could have went about this way better. They could have went about it way slower. 2040, 2050, we could have worked with the cobalt mines in the Congo. And it's not only just there. There is this cobalt that is found around the world, but the ones that are producing it the most is out of the Congo. So that's why it's the big thing is that they have to put their kids to work. The average 9-year old in the Congo, he can't read, he can't write. All they know is they have to go and get that cobalt for their family to eat that night, and multiple family members. And then they do pay them. So what do they get? They can get a little bit of extra eggs. Maybe they can get a little extra goat milk, and buy maybe another apple or two. They're desperate. They're desperate. Uh, Africa has been like this for a very long time. And my friend in Kenya, and my friend down in South Africa, that's one of the farmers. In fact, my friend that was one of the farmers down there, they lost their farm to um, the rebels, and they were homeless, but now they've been able to work get it back. They will not really get back their farm. Now listen to this, folks. They get their farm, they get their house, but they are farming for the rebels. All the money that's made goes to them. So they're allowed to live there. They're allowed to farm there, but the farm and the anything they grow belongs to the rebel soldiers, and it's very disheartening. But what they see is at least they're doing that, and a lot. Get this, a lot of the farms are now being bought up by Chinese. So, um, and I don't want to go too much longer tonight. I just wanted to really give you guys an idea of what's going on with the who the wealthy are and what they are in charge of. And not only that, but then this cobalt that everybody has to have. Um, and it's not only that we have um, uranium issues. Now, thank God there's not kids in these uranium mines, and I'm keeping an eye on it. Um, the but the biggest problem is the cobalt, and these electric cars aren't working. And so the cobalt industry is basically, they say, crumbling, according to what they say in South Africa. That the more these kids are dying, and the more that the public has now learned of what's going on, the less they're able to do. And it could be an interference into the cobalt mines. And so what they're saying is there will be a slowdown on not only the phones, you getting phones, and they'll probably become more expensive, and it will raise the prices of the EV vehicles, electric vehicles. And they said it could cause these cars to double in price, or it's going to cause the battery to be basically have to be doubled in price. Now, the average cost of a battery that has this cobalt in it is around $6,000, and it can go upward to 30,000 for one of these batteries. And who's making the money? China, China. So, um, so with that, did anybody in the chat have a question on what I did tonight? You guys really need to know this stuff, because if you have to know your enemy. It's kind of like I heard with one of the foundations, the Soros foundations. Um, their newest motto is, we're going to go after our enemies and hurt the enemies. And who's the enemies? Us. Because it's the Soros Foundation. Um, and they even have a ad out that says it. Um, and I contacted someone today that I'm letting him know that um, I have found out so much on these foundations and with these protesters. You're looking at Soros owning 230 foundations of protesters, and each one of these foundations have in between 50 to 2,000 protesters that are paid to go anywhere they want. Um, I'm kind of, and they're talking, um, going after their enemies and going after people. Not only that, another revelation that came out, one of the guys from January 6th, he is basically an informant for the FBI. He's part of Antifa. And Antifa and the gangs are now, we're finding out because one of the gang guys told me they're getting given guns and total black armor like you would see with a SWAT team, with the gas helmet, the bulletproof vest. It's all being handed out to the gangs, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and these protesters. And they said, we're getting ready. Scary stuff. But this is part of the One World Order or the reset plan. So, and nobody has put forth any questions. If you're over there on Facebook, if you put down the comments, it'll pop up here. Um, if I have a question, we have so many new people with Facebook. Wow, it's amazing, and I thank every one of them that's joined and shared uh, these new ones over in Facebook. Share a lot. They do share a lot, and I appreciate it. Um, so Karen and William and Linda and Nick was here earlier. Susan, maybe. I'm trying to go through the list real quick. Um, and I appreciate every single one of you in my chat room every day. And we're only getting better. So, with that, folks, hit that like button. That like button, you would not believe the wonders it does for the show. What is the like button? What is it? What is it for? I'm going to tell you. If you get a thumbs up, what the platforms do is it puts you higher up on the list to be seen. So the more thumbs up, the more you get seen on their platforms. And see, they're not going to tell you that you just think it's, oh, I like the show. No, it actually has a meaning to it. And I'm finding out a lot of this. Now, so hit your bell. And like I said, with the bell, every couple months, they want to get rid of the bots or unused um, pages. And so they take it away. And so they think you're a bot or you get caught up in it, you'll lose the ability to have the shows pop up. So be sure to re-hit the bell and subscribe. And that is it for the night. And I hope you guys learned a lot tonight of who's doing what. Um, and I always say, know your enemy and know what they're doing. And if someone is there to tell you what's going on, and if we can get our own politicians together and move forward, because what has been done to this country and to the world is not just us. There's other world leaders that have done it to their own countries, and they're protesting. If we don't stand up for ourselves, if we get someone in to change it, it's going to take a very long time. They're in deep. The deep state's in deep. Um, so subscribe and hit the like button and hit the bell. And also, if you want to email me and ask a question, or if you have, something, just let me know. Investigatornews at yahoo.com. So, and we are over there on Facebook. It's called Investigators on Facebook. And then if you just want to feel good for the day and you like them jokes, I also have a page that's called Hellions, Holes, and Poles. Hellyans. Hellions, Holes, and Poles. Now, where's Hellions come from? It was the name of when I was with the Pogo group. I put that page together with them because a lot of people, when this first started quite a few years ago, was just they were getting depressed, and they said, your jokes are always make me feel better, and the stuff you post. And I said, so I started the page. Well, now it's grown to close to 600 people. And so if you want to feel good, I put recipes in there. I put articles in there, a lot of posts to make you laugh. Karen, I think, knows about it. So if you got Facebook and you want to be go and look at some of these little jokes and use them for your own page, you can. And that's Hellions, Holes, and Poles. And of course, our page for investigator news is investigators. There's no news on it. It's just investigators. And so over there in Facebook, be sure to hit the follow and the like button and the share. And I hope you guys really enjoyed tonight's show. And oh boy, I thank you all so very much. I thank all of you very much. And so with that, you guys have a good Friday night. And tomorrow night is trivia. And if you're new and you haven't tried our trivia, come on in. We have a blast on Saturday nights. It's a kick back, wear your T-shirt, your jeans or your PJs, and throw popcorn at the TV screen and just laugh and have a good time. So with that, folks, we will see you tomorrow night for trivia. And I really appreciate every one of you. So God bless and good night.